as you know, it's not a close case.
No.
So we're not going to go through every statutory constitutional argument here. I wonder what you think about the sign that things are moving faster against this in the courts and the co-equal branch. How do you move forward and build on that?
Well, look, like we're seeing some trends with where he's failing and where he's succeeding, right? Because the DOJ, he's politicizing the Justice Department in two ways. One is, right, to go after political foes and to try to punish people, and the other way is to reward his political allies, right? And up till basically this ruling on the Thug Fund, they've been pretty successful at rewarding political allies, right? Like if you committed a crime and you're a friend of Trump or a donor of Trump, the pardons are for sale. You know, he does blanket pardons of everybody on January 6th, obviously we've talked about. We've seen so many quotes of people who have left the administration who are in the, public corruption division or in the crypto oversight division, basically saying like, this is if you're a friend of the president, this is the golden age for doing crimes, right? So that part of the politicization of the Justice Department has gone well. What's gone very poorly is his attempt to go after foes, and they've just been stepping on rakes left and right. Everybody walks free. Jim Comey is walking free despite his seashell post. Barack Obama walks free. Chris Krebs. They've not had any success there. So this Thug Fund is interesting because it's like the first overstep where he's tried to reward criminal allies, where now the courts are like, no, like this has gone too far. And I think that is, important as we try to roll back the broad scope of the way with which he's politicizing the Justice Department.
Right. It's a key distinction, and it also relates to his shamelessness.
Yeah.
Jason, no other president was shameless enough in the modern era to pardon seditionists. And
right.
J.D. Vance said they wouldn't. And you could take him at his word that he hoped they wouldn't because it was such a bad thing. And in the long run, very unpopular, very politically opposed. Military households, cop households don't look kindly on it. And the shamelessness allowed him to do that, to Tim's point. And yet here, he's overstepping in a way that still requires government action. It's not a unitary pardon power.
Right. And that's part of the problem here, Ari. I mean, thank goodness for the courts in this particular instance. And thank goodness for some Republicans who said, OK, perhaps this is a bridge too far. But we have to understand that what the president is trying to do here isn't just a violation, obviously, of the law, but is a violation of political and cultural norms. But he's been rewarded for it at the ballot box every single time he's tried something like this, right? Like the list of people that you could say are much more deserving of $1 billion fund. We've got Gulf War veterans, right, who could still use money because they're dealing with Gulf War syndrome. We still have victims who are alive from the Tulsa bombing who've never been gotten any sort of recompensation from the city of Tulsa, who bombed the whole city. So what he is saying is, I will prioritize, and this is why his numbers are sinking, I will prioritize my friends, my violent terrorist friends and cronies and crypto bros and everything else like that over every other person who has ever faced any violation or difficulty from this country. That's why there's this kind of pushback. But I hope it doesn't stop with the courts, and I hope that politically it ends up being consequences for him at the ballot box and perhaps more Republicans breaking from basically doing whatever he asks in Congress.
Yeah, and the link then back, Tim, to the end of the first term was that Trump was so chastened and maybe fearful of consequence, exiting office, having failed to hijack the election, that he claimed and pretended that he was against the violence. I've shown this violence and then the clip before. I'm going to run it back. I don't know if you've ever been to, like, if you go to like a reggae dance hall club, they restart the song, they run it back.
Yeah, I went to a reggae spot in Adams Morgan in college.
There we go.
It's been a minute.
DC. We're going to keep... You like that, Jason?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, good.
I know Adams Morgan. I would not be surprised if I'm vaguely aware of the club that Tim is referring to.
Bukum? Was it Bukum? I'm going deep into my memory. It's been a while. I think it was
Bukum. Does that mean anything, Jason, in D.C.?
No, I'm thinking more like Club Dinosaur on a Thursday, but it could have been.
I don't know Club Dinosaur, but when I worked on Capitol Hill, it is Friday. We'll just, waste some time. Left Bank? Anybody remember that one?
Left Bank. Yes.
You do?
Yes, I do remember Left Bank. I don't know why, but I do actually remember
Adams Morgan. So for any D.C. viewers, we hope this was less annoying than to the rest of the country. But, Tim, I'm going to run it back.
Okay.
This is the violence, and this was what Trump was claiming.
Like all Americans, I am outraged by the violence lawlessness, and mayhem. To those who engaged in the acts of violence and destruction, you do not represent our country. And to those who broke the law, you will pay.
Yeah, well, it's interesting that was January 7th, not January 6th, right? It took him a day to get there, and it's on the teleprompter. And I think he wasn't giving his real thoughts there, he was giving his teleprompter thoughts. But he felt to your point about how he felt chastened, right? So one parallel between January 7th, 2021 and now is he's actually feeling political consequence from this, from within his own base, right? Like, obviously, everyone comes back aboard eventually. Kevin McCarthy, we all know the history. Kevin McCarthy goes down there. But, like, for a period of time, his poll numbers, like, really sank. And I think he felt like he had to do that to have, future political power. Now we're in a different time. He's in his second term. He's a lame duck. Like, his poll numbers are as low as they were on January 7th. But does he care about that? Like, there's not a ton of evidence that he cares about that. And I think that he actually cares more about revenge against his foes and rewarding his allies and having this thug fund that he can use to give people cover if they want to act in his favor in the future. I think that's more important to him than his political poll standing in the moment.
I think your theory has a lot of merit and is different than we've been trained to think about traditional second-term presidents. Right. Yeah, it's the ways that he's always different. And there is a guile, a venal obsession with getting these things done before the midterms. And Republican senators are saying, oh, well, here's how we could lawfully try to position to win those elections. And Trump seems to say, actually, I'm just going to try to settle all my scores before then.
Yeah. Well, and this takes us, I don't want to catastrophize too much on a Friday night, but this takes us to looking ahead to the midterms, right? Like, they've tried a bunch of stuff when it comes to cheating on the midterms. Some of the stuff failed. The redistricting efforts didn't work as well as it could. They ended up getting an assist from the Supreme Court. I think that we're going to have free and fair elections, but what if the Senate comes down to one state and you end up in a situation like we're in Georgia from the 2020 election, and he has this fund out there? You remember what Trump was doing? He was calling Brad Raffensperger. He was calling local officials in Michigan. It's not, you can't put it past somebody like Trump to say, hey, I've got a $1 billion slush fund that I could hand out to you if you are the election official in whatever, in Maricopa County, Arizona. And I think that he wants to have that optionality.
Yes, and that's why tonight's ruling, you said a bummer. I think the motivation is a bummer. Yeah. But we also have tonight's ruling that says, well, anyone up and down the federal government who doesn't have the immunity that the president might gets in a lot of trouble if they try to break this. And so just stopping the money right now goes to it because I think it's meaningful. And we've reported on how the effort is not just about the past; it's about building the future shock troops. To your point, funding it. I have so much is going on. I have this new addendum in the same case. This is the Trump v. IRS related, and interestingly, Jason, it shows that the judge is also questioning whether there was any deceit or malfeasance in the misuse of the underlying IRS case to even set up the fund. So this is breaking. Basically, I want to be clear, this is kind of bad news for Trump that the judge is looking seriously at it. But unlike the other thing I mentioned, this isn't like a resolution of it. But to the question of whether this whole thing is a scam, the judge says there are grievous allegations that this case, that's the original IRS case, was dismissed solely to avoid judicial scrutiny of a lawsuit that may have been, quote, collusive from the start. Everyone remembers collusion. Don't do it. And that was only filed to provide what was basically fake, quote, legality for an unlawful settlement. And then, citing the motion, Jason, the judge says that the critics of Trump here point to the fact that the settlement includes a 3-paragraph addendum that bars and precludes the U.S. allegedly or purportedly from pursuing those tax claims against Trump, highlights the fact that the defendants didn't even try to defend against the claims, and finally, that the claims were, quote, clearly untimely, meaning that the Trump folks were going to lose anyway because they filed too late. And so the whole thing is, I'm paraphrasing, allegedly a scam. The judge isn't saying they agree. The judge is saying that is a legitimate enough set of questions that the Trump DOJ is going to have to answer for it. Again, Jason, that's my legal summary. You can give us your general reaction, which is it looks like this is running into a lot of heat right away in court.
In simple parlance, a president who will come up with a thug fund has always lived a thug life, right? Like, we've seen this from Donald Trump for years. This kind of self-dealing, this sort of creating fake cases and fake lawsuits and threatening them back and forth to get payoffs. This is how he has operated for almost the entirety of his business career. And it's one of the things that got him dragged into court in New York. What I think is helpful is that this is being broken down level by level. It's like, no, not only is this probably illegal, this is probably problematic, this initial claim is problematic, but as you mentioned at the beginning, he's just going to try again. He will try to find some other weakness in the system. He'll find some other agency that's less likely to fight back. And that's why people have to be vigilant.